Good evening, and this evening I'm going to be talking a bit more about the anti-Semite smears, and they are smears and terrible libels against innocent, decent people in the Labour Party, the latest one of whom is Chris Williamson, but there have been many, many more. Now, I will be saying some very, very harsh things about Israel and about British Jewish institutions, the Chief Rabbi and the Board of Deputies of British Jews. I will state categorically that I am not an anti-Semite, and I condemn all forms of racism, absolutely. And particularly, I am also not a great fan, I am no fan at all of the ludicrous conspiracy theories that say that the Jews are secretly running the world. Yeah, those theories got 6 million innocent people killed in the Holocaust. I condemn them utterly. However, in this case, there is something going on which can rightly be called a conspiracy, because conspiracies are covert political plots, and this is a covert political plot which is kept away from the general public. And in this case, it's all about Israel. Now, Israel's response to any criticism of its brutal treatment of Palestine and the Palestinians, or the Arab peoples around about, is to accuse those making those criticisms of being anti-Semites. This includes Jews. Those Jews who have a stance against Israeli brutality, they are called self-hating and worse. And some of the things that are said to them are absolutely disgusting. They really are. I've seen, decent people like Tony Greenstein told by other Jews, "Oh, we wish your family had been killed in the Holocaust," or they're beaten up because if they criticize Israel, then somehow they are a traitor to Judaism, to Jewishness. This is despite the fact that for a very long time Zionism was a minority amongst Jews. The Yiddish-speaking masses of the Bund in Eastern Europe, in places like Poland, Ukraine, Russia, Romania, they wanted to live in the countries they were born in. Those were their homelands. They didn't want anywhere else. American Jews, again, they were very comfortable living in America. They did not want to go to Israel. Also, there's one strand of Orthodox Judaism which says that Israel can only be restored with the return of the Messiah. And then Israel will be helped back into will be restored with the aid of the nations. And this has to, the restoration of Israel has to come from the hand of the Almighty Himself. It is, in their view, it is blasphemy for it to be done by secular human beings. And so, this strand of Orthodox Jews really hate the what they see as the blasphemy of modern Israel. Right. Now, as regards Israel itself and organisations like the Chief Rabbi and the Board of Deputies of British Jews, if the Chief Rabbi and the Board of Deputies, just confine themselves to spiritual matters and to defending Jews against genuine anti-Semites, I would not have a problem with them. In fact, I'd fully support them. Anyone would. Any decent person would. But they've gone beyond that. Now, There's a very good documentary on the net by Peter Oborne. It was screened on Dispatches in 2010, and he talks about the Israel lobby, and he describes how it funds MPs in both, the Jewish, the Labour and Conservative Friends of Israel, who go on junkets to Israel, and there are other organisations like BICON they found, which has been founded to promote Israel. Now, he also talks to Alan Rusbridger, who was the former editor of The Guardian, and Rusbridger found that whenever he mentioned he ran a story criticising Israel, somebody would come in from the board of deputies with their pet lawyer and accuse him of being an anti-Semite. Again, this also happened to the BBC. When they did documentaries covering atrocities such as the murder of the Palestinians in the 1990s in the Sabra and Shatila refugee camps in Lebanon by the Christian Phalange, who were allies of Israel, the B was also smeared as anti-Semites. Right? The reporters smeared included very, very well-respected reporters such as Jeremy Bowen and Orla Guerin. Absolutely, people who should be absolutely above question. Oh, they criticise Israel. They're anti-Semites. Now, the Beeb launched an inquiry. Other organisations were drawn in, and I think the Broadcasting Watchdog concluded that everything in this video everything in their reports was right. And speaking on in this documentary is Professor Avi Shleim, who's an Israeli professor of Middle Eastern history, very well respected, who talks about how there is immense pressure on reporters and other organisations not to report, not to report Israel's crimes or human rights abuses, and this is what is going on. These lies and smears against the Labour Party began even before Jeremy Corbyn came into power. He became head. They started when Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party, and Ed Miliband, as you will recall, is Jewish. But somehow, because he didn't give his support as fully as the Israel lobby believed he should be, he was smeared as an anti-Semite, and that was the first time. Or there were starting to smears that he was an anti-Semite, and the Labour Party was anti-Semitic, and that was the first time Maureen Littman decided that she would resign because of anti-Semitism. Also, now, one of those repeating the allegations of anti-Semitism was the former Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, right, Chief Rabbi. And I have no time for Sacks at all. He's an intelligent man, apparently, but, in my opinion, he is a disgusting bigot. When he was Chief Rabbi, he caused horror and outrage because he described Reform Jews as enemies of the faith. Now, that's the language of that's the language of persecution. That's the language the Roman Catholic Church used in the Middle Ages against heretics, or Jews, or Muslims, right? And it's the language radical Protestants use against their enemies. It's horrific, but that's how he described people. Now, a few years ago, Sacks took it upon himself to lead a contingent of British Jews in the March of the Flags Now, this is an annual parade in Israel, very patriotic, where what I gather are Israeli boot boys marching to the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem and vandalise their property. The vandalism goes on, certainly, and it's an intimidating presence. It's there to show the Palestinians who's boss. And to my mind, there's no difference between that and the EDL and other Nazis in this country is going to Muslim areas, or the BNP stepping into black areas, or Oswald Mosley marching into Cable Street to try and frighten the Jews there. I don't see any difference. Now, Jeremy Corbyn is a threat to the Israel lobby because he supports the Palestinians. And so they are determined to smear him as a supporter of terrorism and an anti-Semite. Well, he is none of those things. He has a very, very proud record on combating racism and anti-Semitism. Now, one of the other organisations promoting these smears is the campaign against anti-Semitism, and I think they were set up partly as a response to Israel losing public support over Gaza, and it shows. It really does show. If you look at their website, hardly any of they got some articles about the usual fascists, but not many. What they have instead is a lot of articles attacking Jeremy Corbyn. Now, this is what is going on. These are the people and organisations involved, and the whole thing is being directed by Israel, by the Ministry of Strategic Affairs. It's called Hasbara, it's civilian propaganda, and the minister responsible is Gilad Erdan. So, that, in a nutshell, is why the anti-Semitism allegations have been mobilised. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Good night.